Hi guys, so today I want to take you through 4 different drills that I think are super beneficial and useful to aerial, but also are kind of overlooked and a bit underrated as conditioning drills. My name is Verity, I am an online aerial coach specialising in strength and conditioning, and I help aerialists get stronger for the skills they care about in a safe and sustainable way. I think there definitely is a misconception that strength and conditioning is difficult or complicated, and part of the reason for making this video is just to show you that sometimes simple is actually better. So I'm going to talk you through each of these drills, why I think it's useful and how it applies to aerial and specific skills, and then I'm going to go over a bit about the form and how to do it safely so that you can have a go yourself, and if you feel like these exercises are going to be beneficial for you, you can hopefully implement them into your own training. So let's get started. So the first exercise I want to show you is single arm underhand push-ups, which look like this. And I do these from a kneeling position because quite honestly, I couldn't do that on the floor. So this is an exercise that builds pushing strength, specifically with the palm facing away from us. And this is incredibly useful for a lot of different movements in aerial and pole. So for example, your butterfly, inverted D, Aisha, and your I and X. One of your arms needs to be in this position while the other is pulling. There are also movements like back balance on silks or ropes, and even something like a butterfly is the same kind of single arm push where you're pushing away and supporting yourself just with that arm. So this is actually quite an underrated way of training pushing strength, and this is a very simple exercise that doesn't really look like you're doing a lot. But here's the thing. I can probably bash out about 10 push-ups on a good day, and my push-up form is not terrible. Okay, you get the idea. I'm pretty strong at bent arm pushing movements in horizontal plane. But you asked me to do the same thing just with one arm with my palm turned away from me. It is a different type of pushing movement, so we do need to train this specifically. So I recommend, if you've got a pole, this is ideal because you can grip around it. Otherwise, you can put your hand flat against a wall. You just need to be mindful that your wrist is warmed up, and you also want to make sure that the wall isn't slippy. You don't want to sort of have your arm slide down the wall. So I'm going to be on my knees, and this is going to take some of the weight off my upper body because I'm not in a completely horizontal position where all of my weight is pressing down on top of the arm. I'm going to grip onto the pole. I'm going to keep my elbow as close to my body as I can as I lean forwards, and then push back up. Forwards and push back up. And so you'll see with this, I'm only going as far as my strength will allow, so that I can stay in control of the movement and basically not faceplant. If you want to make this harder, you can give yourself more of an incline, so you can shuffle your legs back, so you can see I'm slightly diagonal now. And then there's going to be more weight loaded into the arm. If you want to make it easier, come closer to the pole and push in a more upright position. So remember with this one, make the movement small to begin with and go as slowly as you need to. The next underrated exercise that we're going to look at is hanging. So this might sound really, really obvious. And if you are somebody who is already training like static hangs, that's brilliant. But I think it's a very easy and effective way to condition grip strength, shoulder strength, lat strength, upper back strength, and build up the stamina and endurance to hold on to the equipment for longer. And yet I don't see a lot of people including this in their training. So the way that I like to engage my upper body for an active hang is by placing my hands shoulder width apart, coming into a long arm hang with my feet still on the floor. And then I like to imagine rotating my armpits forwards towards each other. And this engages my shoulders and upper back in a way that puts me in a really strong and safe position for loading those joints and muscles. I'm then going to take my legs off the floor and I'm going to hold. So this might seem quite easy. You can make it harder by lifting the legs and holding an L. But actually, if you stay here for a long enough period of time, you're going to feel like you're working. I'm actively having to pull on the bar. I can feel my core working as well because my legs are in front of me. And basically, training this drill will not only help with strength, it will help with shoulder and scapular health, and it will help you to trust yourself more on the equipment. So if you know that you can hold on to the hoop or the trapeze or the silks for longer, you're going to feel safer when you're up in the air. You're going to feel more confident at trying different skills and tricks, and you're just basically going to have a much better time. So I really recommend hanging. And if you haven't yet got the strength to do a full hang with your legs off the floor like that, assisted hangs also count. So coming into the same position, rotating my armpits towards each other, and then I can just be slightly lighter on my feet like this. I've lifted the balls of my feet. I'm just supporting myself with my toes, and I'm conditioning this way. So that absolutely still counts. I'm engaging the muscles in completely the same way. I'm doing an active hang. I'm just taking a little bit of weight off of my upper body with my lower body, which makes the movement more accessible if you can't do a full hang yet. The next exercise we're going to have a look at is a glute bridge or a glute raise. So this is something that works on not only the glutes, but the lower back and the hamstrings, so the whole posterior chain. It's a very simple movement, but it's really great for building strength and building more stability and control in the pelvis, and doing this in a way that connects with your core. I often think with aerial it's very easy to focus on the front of the body because that's what we see most of the time, and so it can be easy to forget that we also need to train the back of the body. And this goes beyond just things that train strength in your back, like Superman and anything that puts your spine in extension, but it's the whole of the back of our body. So I am going to lie on my back, and then I'm going to pull my feet in towards my bum. I'm going to make sure that my feet and knees are hip width apart and they are in line with each other, so my joints are stacked. I'm gonna think about the position of my pelvis before I do anything. So if I arch my back and tilt my pelvis away from me, it's in anterior pelvic tilt, and then I can tuck it under, it's in posterior pelvic tilt. And I want the posterior pelvic tilt as I lift my hips. So I'm gonna tuck my pelvis under, squeeze my glutes, and then I'm going to lift my hips until they come all as far as my mobility will allow, and then I'm going to slowly control lowering back down, and then posterior pelvic tilt, lift my hips, and then coming back down. So this is a very simple movement, but when it's done right, it is super effective. And there are a couple of ways that you can modify this if you want to make it more challenging. If you are somebody who struggles to stabilize your pelvis, or you kind of struggle with that sensation of lower body engagement with exercises like this, take a yoga block, pop it between your knees, and squeeze the block. And then tuck your pelvis under, lift up, and then lower back down. And you will find that squeezing the block forces more engagement. You can make this harder by doing one leg. So one leg is up, and then I'm going to tuck my pelvis under, and I'm going to squeeze and lift, and then lower back down. And if you wanted to, you could put some kind of weight across the bottom of your stomach, like a dumbbell or a kettlebell, and just keep hold of it. And you can add weight to create more resistance and make the exercise harder as well. So again, simple but super effective. we want these muscles to be working when we're in the air. We don't only want to be working on core and compression, we also want to know that we have got that posterior chain strength, that we can engage our glutes and our hamstrings and our lower back when we need to. The last underrated exercise that we are going to look at is something called squeezing the block, and this is a compression strength exercise. So those of you who know me or have trained with me, or if you're a client, you know that I am a big fan of training compression strength. I'm also a really big fan of working on the basics and the fundamentals, even if you are somebody who is already quite strong. And this is simply because it never hurts to keep working on the base and get more of an understanding of muscle engagement and body awareness and what we're actually trying to achieve in an exercise. So even though this drill is very simple, I use this with most of my clients and in my own training. This drill was also born out of a desire to figure out how somebody could understand the muscle engagement for compression strength immediately. Because sometimes people don't have the strength to do a leg lift, even from the floor. Like, that does require a pre-existing amount of strength. But this drill pretty much allows anybody to be able to grasp the concept of how to close the angle of the front of the hip and use those muscles to do so. So I'm going to sit on the floor with one leg straight out in front of me and one leg is bent. This is going to be the leg that is working on squeezing the yoga block. I want to sit up nice and tall so that the block is against my stomach and ribs. Arms are behind me so that I can prop myself up and hold myself in place. And then from here, I'm just going to squeeze. So I'm trying to crush the block. I'm trying to touch my knee to my nose. And the muscles are active. I can feel them working. It's quite challenging. And if you hold this for long enough, you will 100% feel like you have trained compression. So this is very simple, but very accessible. If compression is something you're already quite familiar with, and this exercise feels not easy, but like not really hard, you can make this harder. So squeezing the yoga block, try and straighten the leg and keep that same squeeze. And you can move in and out of bent and straight leg for reps, or you can just hold the straight leg. So there are different versions of this, but ultimately we're achieving the same goal with it, which is strengthening our hip flexors in a way that is very, very clear for our brains to understand, so that when we're in the air, that movement becomes more intuitive. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that video was helpful. I hope it gave you an idea of some very simple, very easy to learn and train movements that are a lot more effective than you would think just from looking at them. And hopefully you feel like you can at least take one or two of those and maybe take them into your training moving forwards to help you with your strength and conditioning. One thing that I will say with this video, like all of my videos, is I'm really just sharing like my thoughts and ideas and opinions on exercises for aerial based on my experience. If you find that any of these drills are not helpful, that is not a problem. This is very much me sharing my ideas, and you take what is most valuable and you can leave the rest. But either way, I hope it gave you some things to think about and potentially implement into your training moving forwards. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.